Book of Isaiah. For some reason or other, God just keeps taking me back to a similar subject. Chapter 18, Book of Isaiah. We'll be reading verse 1 through 3. And the restorer is coming. How many of us know who the restorer is? Who restoreth your soul?
Amen.
Everybody ready? No, one ain't
Yeah,
ready.
go ahead.
Verse 1. Woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, that sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the waters, saying, Go ye swift, messengers, to a nation scattered and peeled, to a people terrible from the beginning hitherto, a nation melted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled. All ye inhabitants of the world, and dwellers on the earth, see ye, when he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. O Lord, we thank you this morning for your service. We thank you for the presence we felt today as we come to your house of worship. Open up our hearts and minds that we can bring forth your word. In Jesus' name, amen. The restorer cometh. Isaiah was seeing, in this passage of Scripture, he was talking about several events that's going to happen. Part of it was what was going to happen to Israel because of Babylon. But that was just a shadow of things. You think about this now. There wasn't wings over countries back then. Birds, yes, but birds don't make a big shadow. So he couldn't have been talking about Babylon. Now, could he? When was wings big enough to cast shadows on the ground? Today, the modern era, once the Wright brothers built the plane and it became popular, planes became where they were popular, putting shadows over the land. Am I correct? So he had to be talking about today. But yet he was also talking about the salvation of the world, which was who? Who is going to restore the land one day? Who is coming again as a conquering hero to restore the earth back to its original form? Who's going to restore his people? Now, he's already restored his children. But he doesn't call Israel his people. Israel are his children. Who are his people? To be when you talk about your people, when you personally, Marie, talk about your people, you're talking about your blood kin, aren't you? So, who was called his people? Who has his blood, his son's blood, flowing in their veins?
That's right.
Who has been adopted into his family? So who was he talking about? When he restores the people, you notice it said the world in those scriptures. Didn't say Israel, did it? This passage of Scripture is a warning, a woe, and also a hope to the world if they'll just do one thing, accept him. The restorer cometh. This world is looking for an answer. This world is looking for a hope. And I like and I see it coming up. Both Perry and Starter both basically hit on something. They're bad about going along with each other. But Perry was talking about, did you ever wonder how the mountain of the skull got its name? Other than the fact it looks like a skull. There was something that Perry brought out this morning I didn't know. Stories, verbal stories, that's been passed down in generation to generation with the Jews, were that when when Noah was on the ark, he took with him the skull of Adam. Which is highly possible because he probably knew Adam. Or Adam knew Noah. We do know that Adam knew Methuselah. So if he took the skull of Noah, then he went and buried it on a hill. In a hill once the flood was gone. Which was close to Moriah, which is the hill that we now call the skull, or Golgotha. Now, isn't that inappropriate, where the first man, Adam, is now buried, that the second man, Adam, died? Mm-hmm. You think about that now. The first man, Adam, was buried eventually at the place of the skull. The second man, Adam, the one that caused the destruction of this earth, was buried there, but the one that's going to cause the resurrection of this earth is the resurrection. The one that caused the downfall of the earth and humanity, buried at the skull, but the one that is the reason for man's hope, was sacrificed at the skull. Then Snyder comes out, no, Perry did too. There's a town called Adam. Mm-hmm. You know why it's called Adam? Because that town is about where Adam settled when he left the Garden of Eden. Now, I for years thought, because the Tigris-Euphrates River is mentioned about the garden, that the garden was at the beginning or somewhere where the Tigris-Euphrates, but that's not where it was at. What's really curious, and Perry brought this up, the four rivers that's mentioned is the Nile, which is called something else than that, but it means the Nile. Then another river that's up towards Lebanon, the Tigris-Euphrates River. This forms a triangle of 1,500 square miles. Sound familiar? How big is the city going to be? 1,500 square miles. Guess where the center of this 1,500 square miles is? The town was once called Salem, which is now called Jerusalem. From the very beginning, the Holy Land has been the Holy Land. You think about this now. The garden was in Israel, evidently, because it was eastward in Eden. Where do we think the New Jerusalem is going to be sitting? Where Israel's land was supposed to be. The land that was given to Israel, if you'll read your scriptures, is just about the same place that Eden was. So the promised land has always been God's land. You know, when God gives you something, even when you turn your back on it, He doesn't take it away. You just throw it away. God's gifts are returned. What does He say? The gifts and calling the God without repentance. So when God gave the earth, the garden, and we made it a terrible place. He made it, because of the sin that entered the camp, it was destroyed. But He never took the garden. The holy place was never taken. And supposedly, where Cain killed Abel on a threshing floor, eventually became the holiest of holies. See, everything was right there in God's plan. Sin started in that area. Cain killed somebody in that area. God's redemption was at the skull. God covered the sin of the first murder we know of. He covered it by His grace. What does He do to the destruction of us? He covers our sin. Our sin is death. Our penalty is death, is it not? Sin has killed us, knocked us in the head. But His blood covered that destruction, took us from darkness. He restored us to what we're supposed to be. Adam and Eve talked to God in the cool of the day. Are we able to talk to God anytime we want to? You know why? Because we're His people. Not His children. Not ones in His kingdom like the Jews are, not the Gentiles are. The Jews had to wait till a certain time to go into the holiest of holies and hope to talk to God. They had to wait till He came around to hear His voice out of the smoke or the fire. We don't have to wait for that. Because He abides. We don't have to wonder where He's at. We know where He's at because He abides here. We have to wait till we go to temple to hear the Lord. Because what does it say this body is?
The temple.
He made this a temple. They restore. See, Isaiah was seeing today and in the very near future. The restorer cometh. Woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Ethiopia has always been a land of mystery. To this day, we don't know a lot that's going on in Ethiopia. It keeps itself isolated. It sits in the high country of Africa, in the mountainous areas. So beyond Ethiopia, or beyond God's high place, let's say, woe to the... It's saying, all the areas beyond the rivers, beyond God's territory, or God's kingdom, which right now, where is God's kingdom and glory, need to watch what they're doing. The wings fly, which can be either angels' wings, but I don't ever find a place in the Bible where the angels made any shadow. Not even when Abraham seen the three angels. Do you think you ever remember any mention of a shadow? And think about this. When Christ was in his glorified body, did anybody mention his shadow? You know why? God, Christ, is the light, and he shines so bright he can't have a shadow. So his angels bask in God's glory. They absorb that energy, you might say, or what we call radiation now, to where they glow so bright they don't have a shadow. Because God has no darkness. So his angels can't have any darkness, can they? Darkness cannot have any fellowship. It says darkness has no fellowship with light, does it not? So it stands to reason, once Christ got his glorified body, he didn't have what? No shadow, no darkness. More likely, I can't prove it, but my theory is the angels had no shadow. You want to know why? They were what? Creatures of light. Creation of the Almighty, creation of light. So those wings, shadows of wings, can't be heavenly. And the only time wings were big enough to have shadows on the earth is now. We have bombers that are huge. B-52 is one of the biggest bombers. We have huge military freight planes that are huge. We got one, they used to call it the Green Dragon, because it spewed out bullets out the side in Vietnam. The Vietnamese seen that shadow of that plane, they were scattered like flies because they knew death was coming. Well, in Israel, and I think he was talking about Israel, 90% of their wars, guess where they're fought? In the air. Israel's not that big a country. I can't imagine how they're going to get all the armies of the world in that little tiny valley of Jehoshaphat. The valley of Armageddon. Megiddo. Israel is the number 2 or number 3 air force in the world. And it's one of the smallest countries there is. Israel has more enemies than it has friends. And now that's been, and even back in Bible times, they had more enemies than they had friends. But yet everybody was always afraid to go against Israel. When they went against Israel, they made sure they had the numbers on their side. Today, when the countries come against Israel, the 7 Days War, there was like 5 countries went against them. There's never less than 3. And all of them are, well, they're not anymore. At that time, were more militarily equipped better than Israel was. Israel has fought with 2nd and 3rd class planes and equipment for years. They still keep planes that are outdated. They still use for the betterment than what the more modern plane. You know why? When you're flying in a small space, if you're going too fast, you can't turn tight enough. To make a comparison, Sister Marie's car, at its top speed, will turn a tighter corner than a car that races on NASCAR. You ever notice how long their turns are at NASCAR? It's because if you make a short turn, you've got to slow down a lot. Well, a jet plane can't turn near as tight. Even the old original jet planes couldn't turn as tight as the old prop planes. Well, the newer jets can't turn as tight as some of the older jets could. So you can outmaneuver. Sometimes it's good to be slow. You can outmaneuver the enemy and outturn him and catch him unawares, because he's looking here and you're here. So while he's turning here and you're turning here, you can shoot him. Or you can catch him unawares. What are we supposed to be able to do? We're supposed to... Satan has to act quick to catch us by surprise. The thing is, Christ has been going at this since the beginning. You can't catch him unawares. He has a plan, and it's going to happen that way. He knows where he's headed, and he knows where the enemy's going. So he's going to be waiting for when it happens. Satan thought he had victory when we put Christ on the cross.
That's right.
He said, I got him now, I killed him. He's dead and gone. Oops, what's he doing at my doorstep? Yes, well, I got him. We put a rock on top of his grave. He ain't going nowhere. Oops. He defeated me, Satan. He's alive. He's alive. He's alive. We serve the only living God. We serve the only God. Not only we have to fight the fight, but we already know that we got the victory.
Yeah.
We don't fight to get to the victory because we know we've got victory. We don't have to worry about, are we going to get to the other side? We have that guarantee. Not a hope, not a roll of the dice, not a maybe. We have a guarantee that we're going to the other side.
Amen.
That's right.
Because we know the restorer. We know the King of Kings. We know the conqueror. We know the coming Lord of Lords.
Thank you, Jesus. Yes.
Thank you, Lord.
Which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Now then, this seems to be talking about Israel. Israel has rockets that are launched at it every day. They have one. I've already said they have one of the best. You realize Israel has wings flying over it almost every day. How often you go to the news and you don't hear about somebody launching rockets at Israel? Think about it. Every day there's something flying over Israel that ain't supposed to be. Their planes plan an attack 3 countries away. When they take off, they're aiming at something that's not even close to them yet. I've listened to the news, the History Channel about Israel and its Air Force. It plans an attack. When they take off, wherever they take off at, they're looking 2 to 3 countries away of possible attack venues. Did you know our God looks 2 and 3? Well, look how many centuries he looked ahead. Eve partook of the fruit. And he told Eve that her seed, and that was how many centuries he was looking ahead? Told her about Jesus way back then. Isaiah, look how many centuries he's seeing ahead. God showed him. Abraham, when he was going to sacrifice his son. His son, they said they seen off afar. His son said, ask about a lamb. They said, well, God's going to provide a lamb. And all of a sudden there was a ram. Ram's not a lamb. He said God would provide his lamb. But that wasn't his lamb. That wasn't the ram. He provided a ram for Abraham, but who is the lamb that he provided?
That's right.
And guess what hill they think that was at? Where Abraham was fixing sacrifices. They think it was the same hill that Golgotha was. See, it just keeps right on. The plan just keeps on hitting all the way down through history. God keeps showing us what's going to happen, but His creation is too blind to see what He's been trying to tell them over the centuries. He's given them sign after sign, showed them time after time that He is the way, that He does have the answer, that He is the ark of safety. We had the ark of Noah, then we had the ark that Moses floated in. That He'll provide a way. Well, boy, He provided a way when Moses carried him across the Red Sea. He opened up the waters on both sides. He told them, I'll give you the word. They go to Mount Sinai. He gives them his laws and hollers out the mountain where they heard what He was saying on some things. Mankind has been showed the way. Centuries before Christ, then Christ, He gave His only begotten Son. Give what was dearest to His heart to save His creation. And still mankind wants to do like Israel did and throw it away.
That's right.
That sendeth ambassadors by sea. Now you think about this. Back then they didn't send their ambassadors very much by sea. They went overland. Because to go by sea was dangerous. To get beyond the eyesight of land, you didn't know where you was going. A lot of seafarers back then believed that they could go off the edge of the world in the water. They were terrified. But it says they're sending ambassadors by sea. When do we know when they start sending ambassadors by sea? Now we send them by plane, but they still send a lot of them over there across the Mediterranean, from Italy, from Spain, Greece, Egypt. See, the time frame he was talking about couldn't have been then, because the ambassadors then would have been by land, by camel. But by sea was years later. Rome was one of the first countries to start sending people by sea, and usually they still send them by land because it was safer. See, man now, he thinks he knows it all. We got satellites that can see where I'm going before I get there. I got mighty ships that can't sink. Boy, did they find that out was wrong with the Titanic. Man's got big for his britches. But he sends that back. So it had to be now that he was sending the ambassadors. And what country, you think about how small Israel is, what country does every nation look at and send ambassadors to right now? Israel. What country has got the most advances going on, whether it be medical, scientific, archaeological, everything except, and I think they're even getting into the aerospace thing. What country has got all the technology developing faster than any other nation? It's not America no more. Israel. What country has at the head, the biggest part of the oil pool that the world's getting their oil from is not barely being tapped? You know where the top of that pool is? The biggest pool of oil in the world sits right there in Israel. The biggest deposit of natural gas is right there in Israel. The Dead Sea has got minerals in it. Russia wants it for the potash in the Dead Sea because their soil is very acidic. They need the potash so they can grow things. There's other chemicals in that Dead Sea that are good for computer work. Israel has got deposits of minerals like no other nation in the world. They're now making the desert grow. Where Sodom and Gomorrah, the valley beyond Sodom and Gomorrah now is flourishing fruits and vegetables that they're feeding Europe. That little country of Israel is feeding Europe. But everybody's going there. Everybody wants to pass laws against Israel, but everybody's going there. They're sending their ambassadors. They want what Israel has. Even in vessels of bulrushes upon the water, saying, "Go, ye swift messengers, to a nation scattered." What one nation on this earth was scattered to the four corners? You can find Japanese Jews. You can find Canadian Jews. You can find Russian Jews. You can find Chinese Jews. You can find Filipino Jews. What nation was scattered and kept their nationality? Just one. And they were scattered for almost 2,000 years and kept their nationality, kept their basic religion, kept their name. Right on down to they know almost what tribe every one of them come from. They found them almost all the Levitical tribe. What nation was scattered to the four corners of the earth for centuries and didn't have a homeland, but now has a homeland and is now organized as a nation? Just one. Any other time when a nation is conquered, destroyed, or wiped out, its nationality disappears. How many people you ever hear call themselves Persians now? Think about it now. I'm being serious. How many Persians have you ever heard of? You ever heard any Franks? Franks are the same as French, but they're not called Franks no more. They're called French. That nation was done away with by Rome. Most of the Franks were killed. You ever heard anybody from Goth? No. That nation was wiped out totally. One nation has kept its identity, its name, its people, its tradition, and its religion. Just one. That's Israel. Yeah, where's it? And appealed to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden. What nation has been trodden down the most, and yet it's the most feared? What nation has been conquered the most, pushed down, punished, ridiculed to this day,
That's right.
thrown down, tore up, and yet most feared? Israel is the only nation that wins a war and gives up land. Israel is the only nation that will win against a people and let them stay in their land and make them friendly. In Israel's Congress, in their parliament, they have Muslims, Palestinians. They've let their enemies be their political friends. They've let their enemies have a little say-so in what's going on in the land. They've let a lot of the Palestinians that want to be law-abiding citizens keep their land. Yeah, they throw some of them out. Well, if you had somebody trying to blow your city up, you get rid of them too. If you had somebody all the time come to your house tearing up, when you get rid of them. But you know, if they had a family who come to your house and behave themselves, they'd be welcome, wouldn't they? It ain't no different to a country. A lot of the same things that happens in your home is the way a country feels. What do you think they got their attitudes? Every one of those politicians have families. Believe it or not, every politician is human. Sometimes I wonder. Did you know there's more resolutions passed against Israel than all the other nations of the world combined? There's, on average, a day, 10 resolutions passed against Israel to every one passed against any other nation in the world. I don't understand how people will say, well, the Bible, you hear them say, well, there's no proof the Bible is true. This passage right here. The only nation that's scattered, the only nation where almost every nation in the world is against it. Even free nations is against it. France is against it. It's considered a free nation. One of its enemies is not its enemy. Jordan don't want no part of fighting Israel. No. We fought them twice and never again. You realize Israel's land, before they got it back, was totally destroyed. One occupation by the Turks, they cut every tree down in Israel, cut them all down, destroyed it. There was no trees in Israel when they became a nation. No trees. Now there's a passage in Scripture, I can't remember where it's at, that talked about another land would send them trees. far away. Guess what country sent them trees? There's now eucalyptus trees in Israel. Eucalyptus only grows naturally one place, and that's Australia. Australia, that'd be a very foreign land to Israel, sent things to put trees back into Israel. What's really funny, Rabbi Snyder was saying when the land of Palestine, before it was called Israel, was not occupied by the Jews, nothing grew. But when Israel became a nation, the soil became fertile again. They found water that they didn't even know existed. Back in that valley that's south of where Sodom and Gomorrah was a desert, they found an underground aquifer which they don't know when they'll run out of water. It's got so much water. And the water is rich in nutrients for the soil to make the soil alive again. What did Christ say? I have water you know not of. I have living water.
Yes.
Well, see, Israel represents Christ. And it has water that nobody knew was there. We have water that we need to give the world that they don't know is there. Why do we have that water? Because Christ abides. And out of us flows what? Rivers of what? Living water. You know where that water comes from? Christ, because He abides.
That's right.
Whose land the rivers have spoiled, all ye inhabitants of the world. Now this here is telling you, this message isn't just to Israel. It's not just to the Jews. It's not just to the Muslims. It's not just to the Middle East. It's not just to Northern Africa. What does it say? The world. That meant it was not only to the Jew, but to the Gentile. And there's a religion going around now that says the Bible wasn't written for the Gentiles, it was only written for the Hebrews. Well, what are they going to do with that right there? Because who did it say it was to? The world. Did not say Jews.
No.
It said the world. And that word world there means the whole population of this little ball we call Earth. This message was for the world. This warning was for the world. This hope was for the world. This desire that God had was for the world. God desired that His whole creation would accept His Son. And dwellers on the earth, let's see what I said there. This here is revert. I wonder why after it said the world, then it says the earth. This was referring to the survivors. The survivors of the Great Tribulation, which ends when Christ comes back with the saints. The survivors are going to be those that trust in God. Those who give their heart to the Lord during tribulation. Those that didn't take the mark. Because remember, when Christ comes back, all sin and all evil and all the followers of the Antichrist, all those who took the mark are going to be destroyed. So this was even given those tribulations. Way back in Isaiah's time, he was trying to give the tribulation saints a hope. Trying to tell them, just keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping up the good fight. Keep the faith. Overcome to the end. You have a better time coming. You know, sometimes when soldiers are fighting in a battle, what keeps them fighting is not what they see and hear round about them. What keeps them pushing on when they should be running is because they have a hope of what's on the other side, that they are going to be victorious. And then when they get there, what's waiting when they get there?
That's right.
Why do we keep going on? Because when we get there,
Yes. Thank
we
you,
have a
Lord.
better homecoming.
Yes.
We have a better time coming. We have a better place coming. Our pains and our woes will be no more. We won't need these old glasses. Our bones won't be sore no more. You won't hurt from falling when you fall. There'll be no pain and glory.
God.
You won't be stubbing your toe with glory.
That's right.
A better place is coming. A better way. A better hope.
Hallelujah.
So he was trying way back in Isaiah's time, trying to tell the saints that are going to be survivors of tribulation, just keep on keeping on. Hang on to the better, not the bitter end, but the better end. See ye, when he lifted up an ensign. This is referring to those who have, oh no, wrong thing. The ensign here, he lifted up. The he is God the Father. The he is God the Father. When he lifted up, who was lifted up on Golgotha?
Jesus.
Who was it God said when he was baptized in the River Jordan? This is my son. He was lifting him up, said, hey, watch this man. Listen to him. He's my son. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what I want to happen. He knows what my plan is. He knows the battle cry. He knows the victory cry. He knows the trumpet cry. He knows me. He knows what I got planned for him. Listen to this man. This is my son in whom I'm what? Well pleased. My beloved son. I am well. Christ had just got started. How in the world was he pleased? No, Christ hadn't just got started. Christ had been with him from the very beginning.
That's right. Amen.
Christ had been with him from the very beginning. Christ had helped him create the earth. Christ helped him create the animals. Christ helped him. He said, let us make man. He didn't say, I'm going to make man. He said, let us make man in our own image. So the Holy Spirit and Jesus all had a hand in creating every one of us. On mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, I never thought about this, but it may be that God himself will blow a horn announcing Christ's second coming. We don't know how many horns are going to be blown, but normally, back when we had kings everywhere, when they made a proclamation, they first said it to this person over here. If the person was asleep, they probably hollered at him. And a lot of the kings of Israel had little, can't think what they call those horns made out of goat, those trumpets made out of goat horns, or sheep horns, to blow. I guess he got where the angels are so busy because there's going to be so much going on at tribulation. He has to get somebody. Like, oh, that's the one that says Jesus got to go back and get his and wipe out sin and start the new heaven and new earth. Oh, we got to tell the saints to get ready. They blow that horn and we start coming from all the four corners of heaven. Because, you know, we don't know, I don't think we're all going to be necessarily concentrated. For a while we're going to be in the throne room of God. But after the party's over, we're going to go walking. Like you say, you've got things you want to see when you get there, don't you? Isn't there things, people you'd like to see once you get past seeing Christ and the wedding supper and glorifying God? You're going to have something, well, we're going to be wandering around. Me, I want to see what's going on in other galaxies. I do. I love looking at the different, how anybody can say there's no God. When they look at those telescopes, they see the pictures of beautiful, different manifestations of his artwork. I'll never understand. That one place they call it, they call it the gates of heaven. That's gorgeous. Whatever. However, I'd like to go see it in person, not look through a telescope or a picture. I'd like to go see it. Well, when we get there, we can go anywhere we want to, because we're God's creation, and we'll get there in a twinkling of an eye. Won't have to take no spaceship, take years and years. We can go, boom! I want to go see Alpha Centauri. I'm there. I want to go see the Andromeda Galaxy. Bam! I'm there. You know why? Because we'll be children of the Most High. We'll be heirs and joint heirs with Christ Jesus. Because we'll be the married, we'll be the bride of the Almighty. But then he blows that horn. Boom, we're all coming from all the places we've scattered to be right there with him. Because we all want to take part in destroying and conquering the man that caused us so much heartache, that caused us so much pain, that caused so much sickness in our former life. We want to be there to be victorious with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, to conquer Satan, to give the Antichrist a black eye, to give his angels what they got coming.
Yes, thank you, Lord.
Hallelujah.
We all want to participate. We've all earned the right.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
How do we earn the right? When we accepted Christ as our personal Savior.
That's right, thank you, Lord.
Hallelujah.
When we became hope, when we overcome, when we did like Paul said, I fought the fight, I kept the faith, I have overcome.
Yes, yes.
I finished my race.
Thank you,
That's
Lord.
right, thank you,
Yes.
Lord.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, salvation was free.
Hallelujah.
Salvation was free, but keeping it, you got to fight on your hands.
Yes.
You think Satan's going to let you stay a Christian? He's going to fight you every step of the way. He's going to make it harder. You want an example?
Lord God.
Today, this week,
Hallelujah.
we got blessed with our stuff we was going to get for our new business. The very day we get the box to open up, you know what happened? Satan took our computer from us. It crashed. We're going to have it fixed. Then the toilet quit flushing all the same day. We got a blessing, and Satan tried to discourage us all at the same time.
Watch out for that blessing, can't you?
I mean, God blessed us.
Yeah.
And believe me, that bling bling's pretty. God blessed us with the ability to get something started to help us, and Satan's, I'm going to make it hard on him right off the bat. Isn't that how the old slewfoot works? He told the disciples to go to the other side. What they run into while they was going there? A storm.
Yeah.
Every time Christ said, let's go to the other side, a storm come around. Well, it's supposed to have been a nice, pleasant ride on the lake for the day. Isn't that how Satan works?
Mm-hmm.
He catches you being all encouraged and all excited and relaxed, and the whole thing's going to change now. Whoa! Well, he got a surprise coming that day. We're going to be the wound.
Yes.
We're going to be the bang.
Yes.
Christ is going to be the what?
Yes.
Yes.
Pardon that inspiration, but Christ is going to open up a can of worms.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Glory to God.
Christ is going to open up it's time now, Ken. He said it was finished on the cross. That was just salvation. When he comes back this time, he says, I'm cleaning house now.
Yes.
I am Mr. Clean. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to getting on my horse of glory and being behind Christ. You know, the generals nowadays, they sit back here in their ivory towers and watch the soldiers die. Christ is a frontline general. He's going to be on the very front of that attack. He's going to be leading the charge. Bloweth the trumpet and hear ye, and in one. God always remembers His promises. When God gives you a promise, you can take it to the bank. But also when He makes a promise, He puts conditions on it. He promised Israel the promised land, but He put conditions for them to have it. And because they didn't keep His conditions, you see where they're at now. They got a little tiny spot compared to what they was promised. They were promised from Lebanon to Ethiopia, from the Nile to the Tigris. And what have they got now? A place about the size of Rhode Island.
Yep.
You know why? Because they broke His covenant. God didn't break His covenant, they broke it. And the only reason it's still, they've got a country now, because of His promise that He would restore them, and because of the promise He made to David. Two. God is faithful and will restore all the enemy takes.
Yes, He will. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank
From
you,
His
Lord.
children.
Yes.
God is faithful.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord.
Now the enemy might take something from you.
Thank you, Lord.
He might steal something from you. But there's a better way coming.
Yes.
Everything the enemy takes from you, He's going to have to give back sevenfold. Well, Satan took this world from us. Actually, he didn't take it. Adam gave it to him. But he took it, and we're taking it back. Satan took the Garden of Eden and took Eden, but God's taken the world back.
This He is. Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
You realize that? All he took from Adam was Eden and the Garden of Eden. But when Christ comes back, He's taken Eden, the Garden of Eden, the city of Salem, which is now Jerusalem, and the whole world too.
Yes, thank you.
You know why? Because when the enemy takes something, Christ gives 7 times more back. Well, His 7 times more is the whole earth. You can take God's promises to the bank, because they're going to happen. This is why I'm assured. I know the promise that God gave me about this church. That it was going to be filled and we were going to plan to build a new building. But you know what His condition was? I have to be here. I have to abide till He comes. I have to run the race, fight the fight, keep the faith, and keep you all encouraged that it is going to happen. If Moses hadn't kept pushing the children of Israel to follow the pillar of smoke and the pillar of fire, they'd have stayed on the other side of the Red Sea. He had to show them that there was a land of milk and honey. He had to take them to the promised land. He had to follow what God had told him to do. If Moses had never went to Pharaoh, they'd have stayed in bondage. 3, God sent His Son once to offer salvation. But when He returns, He's coming back to take and restore the earth. I seen something today, not today, yesterday, tell your life. I seen something yesterday on Facebook, some people marching. I think it said, if Christ did it. It said, if Christ comes back, we're going to kill Him. First off, there ain't no if, is there? We know He's coming back. We know He's coming back. We know He's coming back. But they can't kill Him because you can't kill something that's done dead and risen again.
That's right. Amen.
He's not coming back as a man and God at the same time this time. He's coming back as God.
That's right.
He's coming back in His resurrected body. He's coming back in His glorified body. He's coming back as conquering King. Death can't touch Him no more. What was it? He said, death, where's thy sting?
Oh, great.
Christ ain't afraid of dying when He comes. He's not coming back to be hung on a cross again. He's not coming back to be beat on a post again. He's not coming back to prove that He's the Messiah. He's going to prove He's Lord of Lords and King of Kings. It's going to be with a rod and a staff, and it ain't going to be nice.
That's right.
Because He's going to be coming back in anger. He's going to be coming back in vengeance. Look what you have done, world. Look what you have done to my people all these centuries, and what you've done to my saints that have accepted me by pure faith during tribulation. Look what you. I could just see the red in His eye. Hunt my people down like dogs for the last 7 years. You've been stoning my people for centuries, digging a hole in the ground and throwing rocks in their head where they couldn't even block the rocks, cutting their heads off, burning them in cages by people. He's going to be coming back with a vengeance. He's literally going to have blood in his eye. He's coming back to prove that He's Lord of Lords. He's not just going to be saying it with pretty words. He's not going to be speaking in soft language like He did before. You think He got rough in the temple when He turned over the money changer? Oh, Lord, that ain't nothing what He come back that last time. He's going to burn them where there ain't even nothing left to bury. When you see that flame coming out of His mouth, or whatever it's going to be just coming out. He's going to sanctify the land with sanctifying fire. And sin's going to be disappeared. It'll be no more. Death will be no more. Just think, well, for 1,000 years, nobody's going to know death. For 1,000 years, nobody's going to know sin. For 1,000 years, nobody's going to know sickness. For 1,000 years, cancer's going to be gone. Actually, it's going to be gone even after that. But for 1,000 years, the world's going to get a reprieve. And then comes the judgment. Then we got eternity. Then we have an eternity.